So hello everyone, welcome to this Tailwind CSS course in which we'll be starting and learning this Tailwind CSS, which is a very great framework which we should use in modern website development. So let's understand what is Tailwind CSS actually. So what is Tailwind CSS? So it is actually developed by Adam Wathan, and the first version was released back on the 1st November of 2017. Tailwind CSS is a utility first CSS framework, which means it uses utility classes to style the elements or the HTML elements. And we build custom user interfaces with those utility classes, which is very efficient to use. It is an inline styling used to achieve a sleek interface without writing code for your own CSS. So naturally, what we do is we actually give classes to our elements or our HTML tags. Then we style them in a CSS file or in internal CSS. But in Tailwind CSS, the styles or the classes are pre-made. They are actually be created, and you can use those classes to style your elements. We'll be understanding that in great detail when we'll be working with this. Basically, in this video, we'll be understanding what is this actually. Tailwind CSS offers customizability and flexibility to transform the appearance and feel of the elements, which means we can customize according to our need, whatever we want to give the style. If you want to create a button with your own styling, you can do that very easily by giving it some classes which are pre-built in Tailwind CSS. Tailwind CSS is not the first utility CSS library, but it is one of the most popular and light ones. So it is not the first one to achieve this or present this idea of creating utility first classes, but it is the lighter one and most popular one nowadays. That's why we should learn this. It is a highly customizable low level CSS framework, and it provides all the building blocks the developer needs to build fantastic interface for any website. So it is very lightweight and we can use it in any web development project you want, whether it be a normal HTML or it is React.js or Next.js or anything you want. So Tailwind can be used there easily. So how it is different from custom CSS? So normally what custom CSS is, we normally create classes by our own names. Like for example, in this example, a chat notification is a class and we are styling it here in the internal CSS file or internal CSS. Here we are actually giving our own styling. You see that? So by this, our code becomes longer, and when the code becomes longer, at that time we increase the file size. That becomes problem when we are shipping it to production. So this is very big problem when we are working in larger projects. So that's why, to reduce this problem, for like every time we need to create the classes and apply the styling by our own self. Like for example, if you want to add a display flex and all these styling, you have to write these properties and decide the values by yourself. But in Tailwind CSS, you don't have to create custom classes. The classes are already created for every styling. For example, if you want to give a display flex, for that it is the classes are already given, so you can use that. Let me show you the example. This is what I meant. So here you can see that only this line of code is written to design the same look. So both the things are actually presenting the same thing, but in the earlier one the code was a bit larger, but in this one it is a little bit smaller. You can see that the classes names are used instead of the custom classes which we used earlier. So here you can see that p-6, it means padding 6, maximum width small, mx auto. We'll be learning all these classes, what are they actually, and by all these classes we are actually applying the styling which is pre-built in Tailwind CSS. So we are applying those styling by calling these classes. So this is very good if you use in many big projects. So this is how Tailwind CSS looks. We'll be understanding that in greater detail in the upcoming videos. So how it is different from Bootstrap? So you might have heard about this, like this Bootstrap, which is a CSS framework as well, and it also provides us some components and utility classes as well. So how it is different from Tailwind CSS? So Tailwind CSS offers pre-designed widgets to build a site from scratch. So we actually create our own components there with fast UI development, but in Bootstrap it is already like created some components and then we are using that. For example, if you want to create a button, you just call a class in Bootstrap like button primary, and then but that button is applied there, or that button is there. The styling is already predefined. But in Tailwind CSS you can accordingly design your own button or your own styling of that button by calling the classes for each design. So this is how we do in Tailwind CSS. We just call the utility classes to create our own components, but in Bootstrap the components are already built. We just call the classes on the elements so we can get that component actually. Tailwind CSS uses a set of utility classes to just we just saw here. These are the utility classes for different styling. So it uses that to create a neat UI with more flexibility and uniqueness. So we can flexibility is there in Tailwind CSS. We can customize anything we want. We can give shadow, we can give radius, we can change the color, text color, anything we want easily with the classes. But in Bootstrap, we have to follow the generic pattern or generic styling, whatever Bootstrap has designed for us. So we use that. But you might have heard that some of the styling is there, like predefined styling. For example, if you want to create a button in Bootstrap, you'll be using button primary, and then primary color will be a blue color, and for changing that color you use different CSS classes, for example button secondary, button warning, something like that. But those designs or those styling is actually pre-built, or they are already designed. You cannot change the styling. If you want to change the styling, then you have to write your own CSS. That's not the case with the Tailwind CSS. In Tailwind CSS, you can customize your style of any component you create by yourself. So you can change the styling of your color, change the background color, give shadow to it by giving it some simple classes which are already pre-built in Tailwind CSS. So we do this way in actually Tailwind CSS. Websites created using Tailwind CSS are much more customizable. We can easily customize our website if it is built with Tailwind CSS, because the flexibility is more in Tailwind CSS. Websites created with Bootstraps are known for their responsiveness and flawless design, but the looks are generic and similar. Basically, all the Bootstrap websites, you will feel that all of them are look similar, and they kind of share the same design pattern. But in Tailwind CSS you have the freedom. You can change your styling whatever like your theme requires. For example, if you are creating for certain theme, you can change the style of your components according to your theme of your website. Tailwind CSS only needs the base style sheet file, which amounts up to 27 KB, making it lighter. Tailwind CSS uses one file, which is a base file. In that everything is there. The 27 KB is the size of that file, so which is a little bit lighter. But in Bootstrap we have four files which are combinedly 308.25 KB, including all the jQuery, Popper.js, Bootstrap.js, and the main Bootstrap CSS file. So all these files, then when we combine all of that, then the size of the framework becomes 308 KB, which can be a problem in production. And while loading the styling, it will take a little bit time. But in Tailwind CSS, it is lighter, so it will load faster than Bootstrap. So that's why we prefer Tailwind CSS in bigger projects when we want customizability or flexibility in our code or our styling, and we want our light styling framework. So at that time we'll be using Tailwind CSS. But you want Bootstrap for faster development. If you want like all the components to be pre-built and you just want to use them, then you can go for Bootstrap. But if you want the freedom to customize your elements or the components, then you can use this Tailwind CSS, which is a great CSS framework. So this is it for this video. We understood about Tailwind CSS in this video. I hope you understood something. Thank you for watching. Let's meet in the another practical video of Tailwind CSS. Thank you.